Thanks for tuning into the show, everybody. This is Real Estate Insights. I'm your host, Andrew Glisson. We've got some great guests lined up to interview for you guys today, to introduce you guys to. Before we kick off, I wanted to tell you guys that there has been a big announcement, some big news that has come out in the real estate, in my opinion, the real estate investing world. So if you invest in single family homes, multifamily, this is more of a habitational comment. The U.S. population in 2023 grew by 3.8 million people. It was the largest growth year in U.S. history. It was primarily due to immigration surge, but also more babies were born coming out of COVID. Some people put their plans, delayed their plans a little bit, and so some new babies were born that the Census Bureau didn't expect in 2023. All of this news is great for real estate investors. So household formation is one of the biggest things that we look at as real estate investors, because household formation dictates if people are going to be, I mean, think about it. They're going to be, moving out from their parents' homes and either renting an apartment or a single family home, or they are, getting married or moving in with a partner. So household formation is good for real estate. So 3.8 million new people, the largest on record in the United States, is big news in the real estate world. So real estate investing is going to be successful from now into the future for a long time. So that was big news. I wanted to kick off the show telling you guys there's some positive news in the investing world. We're going to take a really quick break, and when we come back, we are going to kick off our interviews. I'm going to introduce you guys to one of our guests who's been on the show before, Jen Greene. She is a real estate investing coach. You guys should know her. And we will be right back in just a couple of short minutes. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'd like to welcome Jennifer Greene back on the show. Jennifer, it's been a while since we've had you back on the show. I think the last time we talked, you guys were nestled into permafrost and there was probably a foot of snow on the ground. You guys have warmed up since then, I assume.
We have. It's kind of a play hooky kind of a day today, so can't complain.
I like it. So, if you guys have been following the show, then you've seen Jennifer on the show. Jennifer flips homes, buys. You've got some rental properties. You flip a lot of houses. You've got a ton of experience, kind of identifying great opportunities and deploying, very systematic processes and procedures into flips. And what I'd like to ask you about a little bit today, Jennifer, is like you have packaged that into a coaching program where you're helping students basically do the exact same thing. So it's called Great Deals First. So help us unpack that just a little bit. Like how do you, when somebody joins the coaching program, tell us about like what that looks like.
Yeah, I have to give a little bit of a background on it because it's
Yep.
something now that nobody is teaching. And I feel like a lot of the times when coaching programs come out there, it's just a lot of the same information kind of packaged in a different way. And it happened for me was because I was getting so much hate mail and negative responses from all of the outbound marketing that I felt like my integrity was being questioned and I didn't really do well with that.
Man.
And so what ended up happening is one of the first deals I did, it ended up kind of becoming a referral partner for me. And so when that happened, I started to build that out and I stopped contacting sellers actually.
Mm.
So now what Great Deals First does is it teaches people how to build relationships with the right people by adding value, building a brand that is, that everybody's going to want to come to every single time. And then it more or less then turns into inbound leads. And so that's what I teach my students to do to eventually then get to zero outbound marketing costs. And it works really, really fast. I have some new students right now. They've started sending out some of their marketing, within 2 days, they had deals coming into them. And so it's just a different way of doing deals based on relationship building versus doing just cold outbound marketing.
So you're not, a lot of people think of like the wholesaling strategy, right? So they've got cold callers calling sellers and things like that. So this is not that.
No, no, because everybody's doing that, right? I mean, you
Right.
have to find something that's different than what everyone else is doing. And not to knock it, that stuff definitely does work, but it's
Yep.
just hard. And you have to keep calling and calling and calling. And a lot of the times you're showing up at these properties, there's 15 other people there. I mean, I was
Yeah,
victim of
true.
that too. And I was like, this is not working. And I don't want to sit here and wait till the end and annoy the seller to the point where they say yes to me. That's not what I
Yeah.
wanted to do. And so I flipped the switch and looked at it in a different way. And it took me, like a good 3 years to really optimize, build it out, test it, to figure out what it is exactly that works. And now I'm sharing it with other investors too.
So what give us a little bit of a hint on the secret sauce then? How do you get those opportunities? Like where do they
Yeah.
come from?
Yeah, so it's really about building relationships with professionals, namely attorneys. And so it can be a whole different type of, it could be probate attorneys, divorce attorneys, immigration. I mean, there's so many different ways and different, people to build these relationships with. And the thing is that, we've had so many people that are like, oh, I can do that. Like, it's not a big deal. I can figure this out. But the thing is, my big question always is do you have them coming back to you over and over and over again? Are people calling you based upon the brand that you've created for yourself? And also, are you continuously adding value to these folks? And I feel like
Yep.
that's really the special sauce, that when you meet with these people face to face and have that conversation, that they automatically want to send people to you. That's the big difference of what I've been able to create, that really, it's not pulling the wool over someone's eyes. It's really creating solutions for their sellers and also for them and their law firm to add value.
So how do you add value? It sounds like you're getting a lead from a law firm. How do you reciprocate that? Because that's super important to you because we all need leads in order to develop our real estate business. So how do you reciprocate that back to the law firm?
It's about asking the right questions and listening. I think so many times people go in with blinders on and make it all about them, right? And say,
Yep.
like, oh, I can do this for you and I can close this deal and that deal. And sometimes that's important, but it's just like with sellers, we have to ask questions and then shut our mouths and listen. And it's the
Yep.
same thing with these folks at the law firms, that you need to figure out what it is that's most important for them and then provide value for them before asking for anything in return.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense. And
Yep.
then once you open the network of contacts and you start to see some deal flow, are you open minded on the target is a piece of property? So are you open minded on, are we going to flip this, turn it into a long term rental? Is it going to be a short term rental? How do you kind of qualify what you're going to do with that property, and how do you teach students how to analyze those properties?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. It's asking questions, right, of the seller. What are you looking to get out of the property? What are you hoping the property becomes? What are the numbers that make sense to you? Because that's the other part. A lot of the times, I think, I keep hearing out there's no deals, there's no deals, the numbers aren't
Yep.
working. Well, the thing is, it's because people have blinders on, right?
Right.
And they're not thinking about more creative opportunities that they can do with these properties. It doesn't just have to be a wholesale or a flip, like you said, right? It could be a rental, it could be a short term, it could be, a rent back, it could be a lease option, it could be a sandwich lease option. I mean, there's so many different, and that's the great thing about real estate, is there's so many exit plans that it
Yep.
has to make sense for them and then also make sense for you. And then, like I said, you can create that win-win no matter what. You just have to, open your eyes to the opportunities.
Right. Tell us about like the timeline of your coaching platform. If somebody wanted to join, what's the time commitment? What's the cost?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a couple different ways of doing it. Some people are like, you know what? I don't need you to coach me. I just want the information and I'm going to implement it. So that's our at
Yep.
home program. Typically, I tell folks that they can really get that done in anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks of really understanding it and getting their marketing out. Right
Yep.
now, I like to hold people accountable. So they do get emails in different time frames for me just to make sure that they're accountable, because I like to give rewards to people who are action takers. Right.
Yep.
And then the other side is our at home with group coaching. And that's 12 weeks. Each Wednesday, I have a time frame that I meet with folks online. They come in, they ask questions, get all their questions answered. We have a private Facebook group that they're part of, that if they have questions in between that time, they can go there and post the questions. I answer all of the questions. They keep to that same timeline, right? And the thing is that if folks
Yep.
end up signing up through watching this segment, they're able to get a really nice coupon at the end of the webinar that they walk. That's $2,000 off the program.
Nice. Okay. So tell us how to get attached to that. How do we find
Yeah.
that discount?
Yeah. So if you go to info.greatdealsfirst.com, you're able to register for that webinar. and then they can go on there and take a look and see if it makes sense for them, and they can start getting the great deals like I do and like my students do.
Perfect. So $2,000 off. That's a big number. I mean, a lot of that's probably a pretty steep discount over something that, I mean, listen, guys, if you were to take advice like this in the real estate business, it doesn't take but a single deal to change your trajectory for forever. So there's a lot of deals out there that you can make $100,000 on that are available. People are getting them. You might as well too. So that's really great information. So Jen, on both of those platforms, you've got one that obviously you have the group coaching. On the other one, is it kind of a video course that people walk through and go through at their own pace?
Yeah, there's 4 pre-recorded videos from me, introducing into the topics, each specifically dedicated to that part. It goes in order of how you should be doing things. Everybody gets that. So they can do it at their own pace. Like I said, I give a suggestion for timelines just to try and hold people accountable. And then each week, if you choose group coaching, you can come on, ask me questions live. I'm live every Wednesday, 12 to 1 p.m. Central Time, and folks can just come on, ask questions, ask, best practices. We even had people on our coaching this morning talking about, lending money to each other and finding money. And so it really
Nice.
creates a wonderful community of people, all over the country being able to, do deals together or help each other out and talk about best practices.
I love that. And then Jen, what when somebody gets into the program and let's say they want to flip a house, what kind of resources do you offer in the program for? I mean, is there any design, kind of resources, flip calculators, things like that to help them get their arms around a strategy?
Yeah, a lot of the times, I mean, in that 12 weeks time, if people get stuff coming up and they want to ask me about it, I'm going to share all my secrets when it comes to that, because it's about making people be successful as quickly as possible. And
Yep.
kind of like you touched upon, it takes one person, one opportunity to change your life, right? And
Yep.
so even one deal can really change things for people. And so making sure that they do it right. I offer, flip calculators. The things that I use are all the things
Yeah.
that I suggest for my students. Now, again, they don't have to do it, but it's a system that works. And a lot of the times when people start businesses, within the first 5 years, most businesses fail. And it's because they try and wing it on their own. And that's usually what ends up
100%.
happening, right? Is if you have something that's working, you take it, you copy it, and you repeat. And so
Yep.
I offer whatever I can. I don't hide secrets. There's no point in that. I'm an abundance mindset type of a person. And so I'm willing to share all of that stuff with folks so that they can be successful even faster than I was.
Well, Jennifer, it's always great to have you on the program, and I'll echo what you said. If you guys are looking to find a mentor and invest in real estate, don't do what I did. Don't do what Jennifer did and go about it on your own. Find a mentor. We would be so much further along than we are right now had we found people like you, Jennifer, to help you lower that learning curve. Just do it. It's well worth the money. It's some of the best money you can spend. So, Jennifer, thanks again. Give us one more time before we go to the commercial break. How do we get the discount on the coaching program?
Yep. All you have to do is just go to info.greatdealsfirst.com and watch that webinar. And at the end of that webinar, you'll get a coupon code to sign up and get that $2,000 off.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. We'll be right
Thanks,
back, everybody. We're going to head to a commercial break. All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. We've got Griselda Abousleman back on the show. For those of you guys who haven't seen her before on the show, we've interviewed her a couple of times. She owns and operates some very luxurious Airbnbs down in South Padre Island in Texas. So you're in the sun, Griselda. What's the temperature there today, out of curiosity?
I think it's in the 80s. I honestly haven't checked, but you go out there, it's a little bit of a breeze. It's nice and sunny and the waves are happening, so it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna do something a little bit different on the show today. This is gonna be exciting. So Griselda is going to switch to her mobile phone in a minute and walk us through the Airbnb that you're in right now. So this is one of the properties you guys own. How long have you had this property up and running?
This one actually just launched this year, so just a
Nice.
few months. And so it's new on the market. We have several commercial and residential properties, but this is the first one that we have on the beach. So it's an experiment that's going quite well. Our customers are really enjoying it. And that's what it's all about, making sure that the customers are having a great experience
For
to
sure.
relax, unwind, and just enjoy the beach.
I love it. So you actually sent us this morning before we hopped on the air a snapshot of some guest reviews that you guys have had. And is this the property that you sent that guest review on? That's in the top 10% of Airbnbs in
It is.
South Padre?
It is actually, it is absolutely. And I just wanted to share that because the topic today is how do we make that pleasant experience for our customers? And we pride ourselves in that. Our main focus is making sure that when they enter that door, it is relaxation, cleanliness, and then just having a good time. So everything is set up
100%.
with that in mind. And they let
So
us
how
know.
critical? Yeah, no, I think that's great. Do you think? I mean, how critical, from a guest review perspective? I mean, you guys are 5 stars on this across the board. How important are those guest reviews, in the Airbnb world?
Yeah, absolutely important because that's really all they have to go by. They have some pictures, they have a short description, but imagine when you're like in a campfire or a meeting or something, and they're talking about different things. And it's really imperative to make sure that they're saying great things, that they're raving about your location. Because
Yep,
that's when people are going to Google it, look it up, and go and place that next booking, right? So it's absolutely
yep,
important. And we make sure that we pay attention to every detail, right? For example,
yep.
we go research the area. Are there festivals, golfing tournaments, parasailing, any activity, and we put it in the guest book. So as soon as they walk in, they have access to everything that is happening within the area.
That's cool. And then what can somebody do if somebody's had a couple of bad reviews, a 3 star or 4 star, that might as well be a 1 or 2 star, right? Anything under 5
Absolutely.
is not good when it comes to short-term rental reviews. So what can somebody do to right the ship and make sure that they're getting better reviews consistently over time? What are some of the strategies that you can implement to kind of turn the ship around?
Yeah, some of the strategies is really focus on early intervention, I call it, for making sure that as soon as you get a phone number, an email, a name, that you make that a pleasant experience. So
Hmm.
it's proactive work, right? So it doesn't get to that negative review. Now, it could be that there's something wrong that happened with something broke down or there's a need of maintenance,
Right.
but you want to make sure that when those things do happen, it's an immediate response. So it is helpful to have a property management company or someone that is able to be there on the spot, right, within
Yep.
minutes. So the strategy that we focus on is don't let it get to that negative review,
Got
because
it.
when they
Yeah.
do have something that they need support on, you want to make sure that you immediately respond to that so that even that negative experience turns to a positive. It's like, oh my God, they reacted immediately and they send flowers. We've done that before. They send a fruit
Yep.
basket or different things just to make sure that we make it up to them. And if it's
That's
something
a great
that
idea.
that went really awry, then we go ahead and provide a discount or different things like that.
Love it. I love it. Well, look, we've got 6 minutes left in our segment, which is not a lot of time. So let's switch. I think you're going to pivot to the cell phone. Let's jump on that and walk us through this 5 star property that you have. Tell us describe the property to us. How big is it? How many bedrooms? How did you find it? On the market. Tell us about kind of how you identified this one, bought it, and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And that's actually a fun story, Andrew. So I found this one from, believe it or not, Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top. So he
Oh
had some
man,
property on the beach and he was looking to let go of it. And I was like, oh my God, that is prime property that is right on the beach. So
sure.
I took advantage of that and I made sure that we made an offer immediately. And we made it super simple for their party to process all the paperwork. So I worked with our
That's
agent
awesome.
to make sure that it's extremely simple. We showed up at their front door. Everything had to be simplified to make sure that we got the home that we wanted. But anyway, now we're here and I can
That's
go
great.
ahead and turn my camera around and show you some of the
Yeah.
features.
Yeah, so it looks like you're standing in the kitchen there, obviously. So is it
Yeah,
kitchen, kind of kitchen dining all in the same place?
correct. So if you go through, is it switching? There we
There
go.
you go. Oh,
View of
wow.
the
Look at that pool,
outside.
man. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's relaxation in mind. So you have a little bit of sitting area, you have a little bit of a waterfall there. And then as you come
Wow.
through here, whether you're watching football or golf or anything, a nice big screen for them to enjoy. And
That's
like you
awesome.
said, there's a bar, kitchenette area. So this is all in what we call the great room, just to make sure that it's made with relaxation in mind. You want to have coffee available and neat features. So you asked me about how do you make sure that they have an awesome review. That's just the
Mm-hmm.
laundry room on the first floor, but the home is 3
Mm-hmm.
floors, and you want to make sure that you also provide that laundry service on the third floor so that they don't have to walk from one place
Oh,
to another.
Very smart. Is this a single family home, Griselda, or is it in a townhome community?
This is a single
Detached?
family
Is it
home.
single
It's a
family
single
detached?
family home and it's made for, it's fits 20 people. So it has bed space for 20,
Gosh.
5 bedrooms. One thing, Andrew, that I've noticed is that people also want to work as they travel, and that is okay. So we
Yeah.
have a very comfortable office space for them to go into so that they can continue their meetings with great Wi-Fi and a nice large screen TV for their meeting
Yeah.
space.
Man, that is something else. All right, so we're going to the second floor, and is the primary bedroom on the second floor?
Yes, it sure is. And so
Sometimes when we get a little freeze up when we're going between floors and we're switching access points, sometimes we lose connection and lose the signal there. So it looks like Griselda, we'll try to get her. There she goes.
there, yeah,
That's
this is a
great.
space for relaxation. And since that's the main, one of the main bedrooms has 2 master bedrooms, this is the office space. Very quaint, very quiet, making sure that
Yeah.
they have everything that they need for relaxing in the home. And I won't go up to the third floor, but I'll just show you here the other living room space.
Is that a second kitchen and like living dining area?
Correct, yes. So
Wow.
it's a second living area. So the bottom is right by the pool, so you can enjoy, watching
Yeah.
your kids play in the pool while you're watching TV and enjoying. If you don't want to be in the sunshine, you can just stay in the AC. And then this is the second living room area with access to the balcony, the dining room,
That's amazing.
and then the main kitchen area. Now, this
Look at
balcony is
that.
pretty
Two
cool.
kitchens. Yeah.
The neat thing about the balconies is that where you can see either the entertainment district, which is all lit up with a carousel wheel on
Oh, wow.
on entertainment for South Padre Island, and you can see the rockets. So SpaceX launches the Starship from here, and you can definitely see
That's
those go
awesome.
off from the second floor as well.
Griselda, has there been a SpaceX launch since you've been there this weekend?
Not this weekend. So it was about 3 weeks ago, and it
Okay.
was massive. It was so exciting to see
That's awesome.
the Starship launching. But yeah, not this weekend, unfortunately. But
Yeah. Well, that's
okay,
beautiful.
there'll be others.
What do you rent this property out per night?
It varies. And so that's a really good question. About customer reviews, it's important that we stay with the market. Obviously, it's a luxury home, but we want to make sure that we're comparable to other luxury homes in the area. So what
Right.
I like to do is set it to the market. If their rates are lowering, then we lower ours as well, whether through promotions, discounts, or just setting the rates lower. If they're going a
Yeah.
little higher, they go a little higher. So we make sure that we stay competitive in the area to stay ahead of what others are providing here.
Sure.
This is the only home that is made with all the amenities. And so we want to make sure that we stay on top of all those details. And so we just set whatever rates. So they go as
Yeah.
low as 670 a night, 500 a night. Sometimes it's a lot higher than that. So we just go ahead and place it as the
Love it.
market goes.
Griselda, is there a strategy to bring a new short-term rental onto the market? So it's a brand new house, you just finished, furnishing it and everything like that. Is there some sort of a seasoning period while you're trying to get some reviews coming in? Do you lower the price, until you can do you incrementally raise it over time? What's some of the strategies to bring a new property on the market?
Absolutely. And one of those is exactly what you said, right? Make sure that it's not priced high initially, because that's the very first view that you're going to get of the
Mm-hmm.
home. So awesome videos, awesome pictures, and priced right. And I don't say price,
Yeah.
low price yourself, but just make sure that it's market based research to price it accordingly so you can get those initial guests coming in. And then once they rave about it and tell their friends and they tell their friends, then you have an influx of people coming in and occupancy rate goes sky high.
Love it. Well, Griselda, we've gone over on our time, but this has been really cool. That you've got a great house down there on South Padre. So if you guys are in the area, you should look that thing up and stay there sometime. I'm going to do the same thing. We always go to Galveston every year around the 4th of July, but I
Yeah,
may have to plan a trip around Starship at some point.
absolutely. Go do that and you'll enjoy yourself. There's parasailing, there's golfing, there's fishing. And actually, we partner with the
Love it.
vendors here and they provide discounts for the Pro House as well.
That's great. Well, Griselda, thanks again for the time, and we'll be right back, everybody. David, welcome back to the show. Appreciate you joining us again. I'd like for you, David, just real quick, give the guests, watching the show, just a brief overview of what Revs is all about and what you guys do. It's been a while. You've been on the show a lot, but it's been a while since you've had the opportunity to kind of reintroduce yourself. So I'm going to turn it over to you to do that, just real quick.
Well, great to be here. Thanks, Andrew. Revs is I like to say, has a very easy business plan to understand. We're solving a problem for multifamily owners that every one of them have. And what's that problem? They are going to need to have EV charging stations so they can refuel their residents' cars where they live. This is the preferred method of refueling your car. And every property has got the same problem. They do not have the infrastructure put in place and never intended to need to have electricity to fuel their residents' cars. So what Revs does is we are building a national network of EV charging stations in multifamily properties around the country, where we'll own them and operate them. And if the property owner doesn't want us to own them, we'll be glad to do everything, install them and manage them and service them for them, because nobody really knows what they're doing yet in that regard.
Which is so interesting, because electric vehicles, Teslas have been around for a while, and you'd think that, it would kind of be at a point now where, the standards are similar or the same, and so it would start to standardize. If you go to a gas station, you're using the same fuel pump. Are there any charging standards between, the Tesla superchargers out there, but you go to, a Kroger or an HEB to charge your car, and that's different. So how do the chargers differ from company to company? Are there any standards out there?
Well, I would say that the industry tried to have standards. Okay, just very similar to your iPhone. That little plug that goes in there is different for your Samsung based phones and your Apple based phones. So that's kind of what we have going on in the EV charging industry. However, as you may have heard, Tesla has kind of upset the apple cart after getting many of the car manufacturers to accept their type of plug that they're going to put on their EV charging stations. Tesla last week basically said that they were rethinking their EV charging business, and they've had a massive round of layoffs, as most people, and they have basically, as my understanding is, let go of the DC fast charging team and many in the level 2 charging team, and this did not come as a surprise to me.
Really,
I thought it was a matter of time. Look, Mr. Musk is the genius of our times. He is solving the world's greatest problems. And transportation is just one of them. Electricity is just one of them. He's into so many other things. And quite frankly, providing EV charging services is no longer one of the world's greatest problems. He had to do it when he started his company to have a proof of concept and to get the business going. But now there are many people making all kinds of level 2 and level 3 charging stations. And so it begs a question, why would Tesla continue to spend their resources on charging now that there's a bunch of other companies that are capable in handling it? So as far as getting to your question, is there a standard? Well, yes and no. There was, but it was a two answer solution, and I think that's where we're going to be for a while, if you ask me. I think that it's not an inconvenience. Look, for the people that need one type of connection, and the charging station only has the other one, they'll go get an adapter. An adapter works really easy. They're very inexpensive. In fact, Tesla gives you, or used to give you, adapters with their cars so you can charge at any station. So it's not that big a deal at the end of the day.
David, back to what Tesla's decision to lay off, the charging staff. Unpack that just a little bit more for me, because I don't really understand that. So Tesla was in the business of providing charging solutions for everybody else, and they've stopped doing that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, so Tesla, when they started, they had to show everyone, look, you can charge these cars, and
Mm-hmm.
they set out on their initiative to be the leader in EV charging, and there are several types of chargers that they manufacture, level 3 chargers as well as level 2 chargers, as well as they had their own software that went into those chargers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at this point, I'm unclear as to whether they will continue to manufacture chargers or not. But they had
Gotcha.
developed a very large staff of people within Tesla that was handling their EV charging business, and many of those people are no longer there. So
That's interesting because when the articles and the news stories came out about that, it was they were what the articles and everything that I read about it was suggesting that because of the economy, Tesla's laying people off. But you're saying this is a business decision that you saw coming, where Tesla's just out of a certain sector of what they were doing, which is not profitable anymore, I guess.
So most of the news has been on the level 3 chargers, the DC fast, the super network that Tesla's doing, and
Yep.
Tesla is that's not my business, so I'm not as familiar with it, but that's been the one that's garnered most of the headline news. But the level 2 represents about 80% of the chargers that will be put up in this country, and it's a easy hardware to make, and the
Right.
software is not that difficult. So I always, at least with regards to my business, always wondered why Tesla was in it, and they were very, very tough to compete with because they had different cost of capital than we did, and
Right.
so they do things to just get market share. So I'm actually glad to see them leave the level 2 market, but
Interesting.
they've basically said on the supercharger network they'll continue to work on the stations that they've built around the country and continue to deal with those, but they've pulled out of a lot of other deals that they were working on that they hadn't started construction yet.
Interesting. Okay, so it's a big news in the EV world. You said earlier that you can use an adapter to put onto a different type of charger. How many different types are out there?
Well, there's a few of them, okay, but the main ones, the primary ones, are the J1772, and then what they call the NACS, which is the one Tesla was advocating and got all the manufacturers to do. So there's a third one called a Cambio, which we don't see very often in the business. It's pretty much been phased out with the new connectors.
Gotcha. So there's
Really?
there's not as many. There's 2 or 3 then
Yeah.
that are the main ones. That's interesting. And then from an operational standpoint, these charging stations that get put in, are they pretty reliable? Are there any inoperability issues that creep up on these over time? What does the maintenance look like on a charging station?
Well, that's a great question, Andrew, because it's all over the board. It's all over the board. I mean, are they reliable? Yes, most of them are reliable. You hear a lot of news about them going down, about stations not working, and actually, we find that when a station's not working, it's usually just a couple of problems. One problem is the circuit breaker needs flipping. The second problem is
Kind of
the
easy.
software vendor has updated their software, and the machines have gone offline when that happened. Unintended consequence of updating software. Okay. And we find a lot of charging stations go out on that. And then the last one seems to be the cell signal, or will it, how do you get it, get it working, because most of them rely on a Wi-Fi signal or a cell signal.
Gotcha.
Sometimes the those change. So
And
it's always a challenge to keep them up. But that's
yeah,
what Rev
and then
does. We keep
that's
them
what
up.
you do. Yeah, that was my last question. I've already run out of time, but my last question was, we'll go overtime. Are you guys connected to the whole network? So everything you guys put in, you can see a dot on the map, see who's live, see who's off, and so you're constantly monitoring this. That's part of the business.
We do, but it's very interesting because we have a portal with all of our vendors that show, we can go in and see what the stations are and doing, but for some reason that's not always an accurate portal.
Yeah.
We find out that the vendor, that we're not seeing the same thing that the vendor's seeing, and that's problematic.
Big surprise.
And
Yeah.
and nobody knows it, by the way. That's the problem. And so until we point it out to them, they don't even know there's a problem there. And these are all early industry issues. Okay,
Yep.
they will all disappear, but it's
Yep.
no different than the cell phone adoption in the '90s. Lots of problems, lots of frustrations.
100%.
Now it's become very reliable. So,
Well, David, always good to have you on the program. Really appreciate it, and we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
thank you.
Jodi, welcome back to the show. We've got Jodi Harstine from Jodi Harstine Homes back on the show with us. And Jodi, when just out of curiosity, everybody talks about elevator pitches sometimes, and what do you say to people when somebody asks, what do you do? You do a lot of things in the real estate world, so tell us.
Realistically, I just tell them, include that I'm a veteran because that's important to a lot of people. That I've been in the industry for 6 years, and that I love helping people. What I love about it, I have a bad habit of telling everyone my husband's retired Army, but it's supposed to be about me. That I also tell people, that I have 4 children, that I have a very strong background in HOAs and condominiums, and that, I'm a servant, so I want to help them wherever I can.
Yep. I love it. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Jodi, since you're kind of all over it, on real estate, sales and acquisitions, what, from a new construction perspective versus, kind of existing homes that are out there, existing inventory, what's the better deal right now? A new house that you can get, a builder discount, or a house that's, an older house that's not new construction? What's your perspective on that?
Right now, a lot of the benefit for new construction is lower interest rates,
Mm-hmm.
which is, everybody's looking at that picture. But at the same time, there's something to be said about moving in a home that nobody else has ever lived in. If you are working with a builder that will accommodate, you can make some customizations to it. Whereas, any pre-existing home, you're getting into it and you're going to change something.
Yep. So interest rates, what are you seeing? What's the interest rate right now for stuff? If somebody made an offer right now, what could they theoretically get, assuming, good credit? And then what would they get from a new construction builder?
The average right now is right around 7. You probably are not going to get any lower than that right now. But I have seen 4.99% offered by new construction.
Wow. That's a big difference on, your monthly payment if you're trying to get, a bigger house. And is that for the life of the loan?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. How do they achieve that, out of curiosity?
I honestly don't know. They use,
Yep.
Each builder has their preferred lenders that they work with. So they probably are doing that because of pure volume.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, how does the buying process differ from new construction to existing homes? Is it a lot different?
It is a little bit different. It really depends on your builder, because I've done, a design appointment with one builder, and then, there's the other builder that's like, this is the house, that's it. You get no choices.
Yep.
This is it. But the biggest difference is actually the contract. The contract comes from whomever is working for the builder. Chances are it's an agent of some sort, whether they're employed specifically with the builder, or an independent agent that builder has hired to do that work that they want to work for them. But it's a different contract. It's a new construction contract.
Right. And do you see, like, when you're going through, the inspection process in a new home, I mean, are they built, better than homes that are 20, 30 years old? Or are you seeing some, cut corners, some loose edges? What are you seeing in the market?
My experience is no matter how many times you tell people, the buyers don't feel that they need to do an inspection on new construction. But it's
Really?
important. It's just as important as a
Man,
pre-existing home because people make mistakes. Things
for
happen.
sure.
Absolutely. So, they generally buyers do not want to don't end up doing them, even, with that strong recommendation that they do.
That's wild. I bought a new construction home a number of years ago. I bought a couple, and one in particular had a lot of problems on that the inspector found, and it had to do with stucco. It had to do with water, draining properly away from the property. Always get a home inspection. You probably tell your buyers
Absolutely.
that constantly.
Yeah, I mean, every single buyer, no matter what the status of the property is, you should have an inspection done.
Yeah. How does the closing process differ, or does it at all?
It doesn't really, except for the fact that new construction is very prone to delays. I mean, they'll
Oh
tell you
yeah,
one time, and you can almost guarantee that when you fill out that contract, that initial closing date will not happen.
really.
Yeah, it's just the
Just
way it is because there's no way to
yeah.
predict, are all the refrigerators on back order,
Oh yeah.
or water heaters or anything. Windows, we had a big problem with windows here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the tile or, whatnot. And it depends on the builder. I had a purchase where they couldn't get the tile that the client originally agreed upon, so they gave
Mm.
them alternatives so they didn't delay the process.
That's good. And then out of curiosity, Jody, just walk us through, just the closing process in general. I mean, this is something that I'm just kind of curious about. So somebody calls you and they want to list their property, and you guys settle on a price. You put that property on the market. Obviously, there's a series of showings that happen and everything. What happens when the contract comes to the seller, an offer to buy that house? What are the steps from that point on through the close?
Okay, so the the seller accepts, assuming that they accept the contract, and then
Right.
that gets sent back to the buyer. It's not officially a contract until the buyer's notified that the seller signed it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a due diligence period in which the buyer would have their home inspection done. They pay their earnest money, which is their deposit essentially, and then they have their home inspection done. In that period of time, they have to have if there's anything that comes up in that inspection that they want the seller to fix. Typically, it's not, there's a dent in the wall, there's a piece of paint missing. It's
Yeah.
it's more bigger and structural kind of things that you want the seller to fix. That
Right.
request has to be in that due diligence period. And then it's calm for a little while because we're waiting on the lender. And in Georgia, our attorneys do the title work, so we don't do anything. We
Yep.
just send them the contract and they handle all of that. They will probably need to provide more documentation and so forth, good communication with the lender.
Mm-hmm.
The lender orders the appraisal. And then once we get the final approval and the appraisal, we set that time with the closing attorney and they go sign their lives
They go
away.
sign their life away.
Yes.
So in that due diligence process, what do you advise buyers? What kind of inspections should buyers get?
I think they should have a thorough home inspection. There are
Mm-hmm.
several home inspectors here in the Savannah area that I've worked with, and they do an excellent job. And I provide the
Mm-hmm.
buyer a list, those two or three that I have that um, would be good for them because ultimately they're the ones they have to choose who it is. Now,
Yeah.
I will attend the inspection, especially if they don't live here locally
Yep.
yet. So I definitely go with them. But if you were buying a home in, historic downtown, I would recommend a different home inspector for you.
Interesting. Okay. And then out of that initial home inspection, do other inspections, come out of that sometimes?
Usually it's a further inspection of the HVAC with a HVAC professional and a further inspection of the roof for the same reasons, because that home inspector is just a general inspector
Right.
for a home in general, and their area of expertise is just everything. So you want to make sure that HVAC is working properly and has been serviced if it needs serviced. And the
Yep.
best person for that is someone that professionally works in that field.
One of the things that we struggle with where we buy investment properties, I mean, these properties are built in the 50s and 60s, and they have old terracotta sewer pipes that break down, cast iron sewer pipes that break down. Do you guys have that problem in Georgia?
No, we do not. I personally have had that problem at a home I owned, but we do not have that here. Most of those, the buildings,
You're lucky.
the homes that actually have those kind of pipes are going to be the older, more historic homes, and a lot of those have turned into HOAs, and a lot of that stuff is now maintained by the HOA.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, interesting. And then final question, Jodi, before I run out of time. We've been talking about the closing process a little bit. So back to that, what are the fees that somebody can anticipate that they look at when they see that settlement statement, which is what the seller is responsible for, what the buyer is responsible for? What are some of the fees that you see on those?
Most of that is going to be like the attorney fee, the actual attorney fee just for doing the process. If they're mailing any documentation, that's on there. Of course, the commission's on there for the real estate agents on both, one or both sides, however that works out. And, basically just some title and filing fees.
Right.
And
So
and the
just a bunch of fees.
taxes and the intangible
right.
tax and the property tax and so forth is on there. And
Makes
the
sense.
buyer's first year of their homeowner's insurance.
Well, good stuff. Jodi, you're on social media. How can our viewers find you?
You can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Jodi Harstine Homes.
So you guys should follow Jodi. I follow her, and she's popping up on my Instagram often with good tips and a lot of information on real estate. It's always good to talk to you, Jodi. I appreciate the time. We'll
Thank you.
have you again on the program soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Be right
Bye.
back, everybody. All right, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. We're always here, Now Media TV, 5 o'clock on Thursdays. And we're always going to bring you guys, cutting edge real estate news, people that are in the business, investing, doing a great job. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. If you guys have any comments or questions or suggestions on the show, or want to introduce us to people who, would like to be on the show, you think they'd be a good fit, reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram, Andrew.Glisson. I'd love to hear from you. Tell me about things you guys want to hear about. We try to put the most relevant real estate content in front of you guys every week. So thanks again. Have a great night.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.